Everyone, hope you guys are having a great day. How cool was that? If you hadn't seen that before, that is what I was waiting on. And I was pretty darn excited to get that. Let me adjust this camera real quick. So we have a lot to talk about today. If you are watching on Instagram or you are watching on TikTok or Facebook, I think it's on Facebook now too. We are live on YouTube. You can come on and watch over here. For the TikTokers, you guys are the only ones who can't see anything that I put up on the screen because that TikTok doesn't play nice with other platforms, but the Facebook people and Instagram people can. So if you want to hop over, you can do so. For TikTokers, if you go to the link in my bio, I have a direct link over to my YouTube, and I'm trying to grow that. Same thing with Insta. I'm trying to grow you guys too. So please hit that follow button now. With that being said, we have a lot to talk about today. There is a lot of things now. This Abercrombie CEO arrest, it is like a page straight out of Diddy's playbook, even though it isn't related. And I think we're going to talk about that because it's important to know what's going on there. But we also, of course, have some Diddy updates. And I was kind of teasing people a little bit on TikTok earlier when I was live about something regarding Jamie Foxx, but I wouldn't give what it is. I will give it on this live as a benefit of being on this live, and then the video will be posted that I made on it later to Facebook, Insta, TikTok, etc. So anyways, if you are here and you are watching, you will know that first. And this is the one, the Jamie Foxx thing, I'm not going to lie, and I'll explain to you why when we get to it. This one blew my mind a little bit. Despite everything else that we've heard, it blew my mind just a little bit. Now, with all that said, I have not done housekeeping items for a while, so let me do that real quick. First, if you are here for the first time, please do me a solid, no matter which platform you're on, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Subscribe is the same as a follow. Does me a massive solid. It's free to do, and it's awesome. If you are watching on TikTok, please tap that screen because getting that over 10,000 within the first few minutes helps push us out to the FYP, and I appreciate that as well. So thank you guys for doing that too. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, a lot of y'all know, and I've not talked about them in a while. I've skated past this, but my wife is like, you need to sell some books. So for a lot, that's not supposed to still be up there. What? Justin, come on. Rookie mistake here. I don't know how to get rid of that. Oh, there we go. Bam. All right. So I've written a couple books. The first one is called Boundaries. If you have a child, let me start this over. If you're one of the 26% of millennials and Gen Z that are no contact, limited contact with a family member, you need this book. There is no other resource like it. That's why I wrote it, because I needed a resource. And basically, this book explains to your kids why you're no contact in a way that doesn't vilify the person, explains to them how to set boundaries and what conditional relationships are so that they can hopefully avoid them in the future. It gives lessons that are fantastic. And even though I am far from a therapist, I had 3 different therapists look at this. One of them actually wrote the blurb on the back so that the language was appropriate. It is a massive value if you need something like that. The other thing is surprises are okay, secrets are not. Now, this is the second book I wrote, and I wrote this book so I don't have to do a story on your children. That's truly the reason why. This came from things like Madeline Soto, Audrey Cunningham, and all those stories like that. Now, that being said, this book basically teaches your kids not to keep secrets. That surprises have in-date, secrets don't. And adults especially should not be asking your kids to keep a secret. And at the end, there's a question that you have with some jumping off points to have age-appropriate conversations with your kid. Now, the last one I'll say, this one is going to be out very soon. It's called The Lost Balloon. I need to change that, get that updated. That being said, this book is about sharing with undertones about cultural acceptance, and it will be out very, very soon. You can pick those up by going to the TikTok shop or through my links and bios to my website, justinthennickofcrime.com, and they will come signed and get shipped out either same day or next day. So do me a solid and order those if y'all need those. Now, without further ado, let's talk about all the things that are going on. But actually, real quick, one thing I did for you guys, I want to show y'all real quick, then we'll do this. I've been promising you guys something for the last mostly week or so, which is basically I will give you guys all the cases that I've been able to compile so far against Diddy, the actual legal documents, what's been filed with the courts. So for those of y'all who are interested in deep diving, reading the details for yourself, the things that can't be said on social media, I have done that for you. So what you do is you go to my website, which is justinthennickofcrime.com. You'll see my stupid face right here. You scroll down. Here are the books if you'd like to order the books. And by the way, bundles get free shipping and you get a discount for buying too. But you scroll all the way down to links. And right here, you have the links to the Diddy court docs lawsuits. You click on that and you can read what is there currently, and I'm working to find the rest of them so that we can have them there. So if you want those, definitely know that those are there so y'all can take a look at that. So, okay. Want to make sure I told y'all that before I forgot. Now, with that said, let's get into the stuff that y'all really want to talk about. Let's start with Abercrombie and Fitch, because this one, this was not on my radar. This was a little bit quieter. So in the picture right here is a much younger Michael Jeffries. He's 80 now, and he was arrested today, him and two other associates, one of whom was his romantic and business partner. And the other one is somebody who they had is basically a recruiter. And like I said, this is straight out of like the Diddy playbook. And like I said, they're not related. There's nothing to indicate that they're related. Yes, these worlds sometimes, collide a little bit. Absolutely. Diddy had his own fashion brand, but he wasn't like, the culture that he was building or making fashion for wasn't for the same culture that Abercrombie and Fitch was. That's just the bottom line. And it was also very similar, but different. So whereas Diddy didn't care who they were, what they were, allegedly, male, female, adult, minor, whatever, this guy went after young adults, maybe late teens, but from what I can tell, nothing is illegal at this point in time. So that being said, let's give a little bit of background of how this came to be. So about a year ago, there was an explosive BBC News interview in which 12 men alleged that they were lured to events at Michael Jeffries' New York residence or at luxury hotels throughout different cities in the world, major cities in the world. And this all happened between 2009 and 2015, late 2008, really December 2008, really. And in the wake of that news report, a class action civil suit was filed in New York last year, basically alleging that there was more than 100 men had been abused. And the fashion giant, basically Abercrombie, turned a blind eye saying like, you know what? Jeffries is a good CEO. Profits are good. We're just going to ignore this alleged misconduct. We're not going to look into it. We're going to pretend it's not happening. And just, turn a blind eye, basically. And so the lead plaintiff in the case is one of a dozen men who spoke to the BBC, and he alleged that he felt pressured into having, relations with Jeffries at one of his parties in his Hamptons mansion. He said that he didn't feel safe to say no, or I don't feel comfortable with this because of the home's secluded location and the presence of Jeffries' staff, which is very important. We're going to get into that in a minute, who were all dressed in a uniform, which was head to toe Abercrombie and Fitch. So this has been ongoing for about a year. The original suit was filed in October. It also alleged that modeling scouts, he had modeling scouts scouring the internet for prey, and that some prospective models who were really wanting to become the next face of Abercrombie ended up as trafficking victims. But because, like I said, the brand was so profitable, he was basically given complete and utter autonomy to perform his role as CEO however he saw fit, including through the use of blatant international trafficking and abuse of prospective Abercrombie models. So that's what's being alleged. So let's talk about kind of what happened. In fact, where did my notes go so we can get those pulled up? Bear with me real quick. If I don't have the notes, I'm going to be very sad. Oh, here they are. All right. So the three people who were arrested were the former CEO, Michael Jeffries, Matthew Smith. Michael Jeffries, by the way, is 80 years old. Matthew Smith is 61, and he was a business partner as well as Jeffries' long-term romantic partner. And then a man by the name of James Jacobson, who was basically brought in as a recruiter. That's what his whole job was. So for those of y'all who are my age and older, maybe a little younger, back in the day, being with Abercrombie was a big deal. Even getting hired with Abercrombie was a big deal. When I was younger, I didn't work for Abercrombie, but I worked for Hollister and American Eagle, and at one point Armani Exchange. And, when you went into some of these retailers, namely Hollister and Abercrombie, if you weren't good looking enough, and I'm not saying anything about myself on that, by the way, I'm just telling you the general rule and what was known. If you weren't good looking enough, you would be turned away. They didn't want you. And that was well known back then, that they discriminated against people who were overweight. They discriminated people who they didn't deem were attractive. And that they would set people in front of their stores, shirtless, spraying cologne, whatever. And they would have the ads, which were always controversial, but typically shirtless models, a lot of guys, etc. But it was a big deal. So a lot of these aspiring male models knew that if they could get in with Abercrombie, that it would be a phenomenal start to their career. And so Michael Jeffries, knowing this, knowing how Abercrombie stood, was a fashion juggernaut, so to speak, He used his power, wealth, and influence and would traffic these men for his pleasure. Well, his and his partner Matthew's own pleasure. And here's basically what the details of the allegations say. And real quick, before I get into the details of these allegations, Michael Jeffries and Matthew Smith were arrested in Florida. And if they haven't already, I'm sure they probably have. We're supposed to see a judge this morning or this afternoon in Florida at I think it was the Eastern District of Florida. And then James Jacobson, there we go, was arrested. We're supposed to see a judge in Wisconsin. These are all federal crimes. And then this is all coming out of the Eastern District of New York. So they're going to be arraigned there and basically they're going to be extradited to New York, and they'll see a judge there at a later date and time. We don't know what that date is yet. I'm guessing they're working on getting extradition going. It's going to involve lawyers. It's a whole thing. But nevertheless, in the allegations, basically, Jeffries was employed for no other reason than to go scout out, find, and recruit men. When he found these men, he would engage in what was called tryouts. Okay. So this wasn't like a freak off, or somebody coined the term Fitch off, which I love. These tryouts, and this would happen with men all across the world. And he would pay them to engage in SX with him. But following these tryouts, Matthew Smith, well, basically after the tryouts, if they were approved, they would be submitted to Matthew Smith. Matthew Smith would often personally approve if the men would get to meet him and Michael Jeffries. Now, once those men were approved, they would be flown to either their homes in the Hamptons or New York City, or even to hotels in places like the UK, France, Italy, Morocco, St. Bart's, etc., to meet them and attend events. Now, the events that they were supposed to attend in ended up these guys engaging in commercial S. They weren't aware that that's what they were doing. They were brought to these things under false pretenses. They were not told what they were supposed to do. They were led to believe that that this was just something to basically help advance their career with Abercrombie, some kind of like a meet and greet kind of things. There was also a referral system and interview process that did not inform the men of these events before they attended them, including what would be required of them. And in order to make these happen, Jeffries and Matthew Smith used force, fraud, and coercion to traffic these men. And it was, again, solely for their gratification, right? Just absolutely disgusting that they would do something like this. And again, they led these men to believe that, attending these events would result in modeling opportunities with Abercrombie, or at the very least, would benefit their careers in some way or fashion. Now, let me tell you guys how big this was, like how orchestrated this was. I would say it was as well orchestrated as Diddy's network, possibly even better. And when I say better, I don't mean that this is a good thing. I'm saying that it just seems smoother based on what I've read. So they had an entire, complete, well-oiled operation going with this. Okay. They hired a secret staff who would operate these events. And when people would come into these events, they were forced to sign an NDA and hand over their cell phones. And this was mainly to maintain the secrecy of what was going on in these events. They didn't record them, at least from my understanding, at least not that we've seen yet. They didn't record them because, like Diddy did, because they wanted everything hidden. And like I said, at this point in time, now things might come out that there were cameras, but nothing that I've seen at this point. And if that does become the case, I will make sure to update you guys on that. Now, they were led to believe by not complying once they were in there, once they realized what it was, that it would harm their careers. They were pressured and forced to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxers, which were known as poppers, during these events. And this was the real, not that it's not all messed up, but here's just another extra messed up part to it. These men were not allowed to leave. They had staff standing there, like the secret staff standing there around the area to prevent anybody from leaving, almost like a security type thing, unless Michael Jeffries or Matthew Smith said, hey, you guys can go. They were forced to stay there. They had no choice. Now, when it got to a point where these men either were unable to, incapable, unwilling to engage in the acts that these men wanted, then either the staff or even direct Jeffries or Smith themselves would go around injecting these men with an erection-inducing substance for the purpose of causing them to be able to engage in things, whether they wanted to or not, whether they could or not, whether they were conscious or not. And this didn't just happen like once or twice. This lasted from at least December of 08 until I think March of 2015. And during that time, they hired dozens of men, transported them to New York and all around the globe, spent millions of dollars on this massive infrastructure. And this infrastructure was designed to support the operation and maintain its secrecy. And this included hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash for commercial prolific amounts of money for the staff to run these events, and money for domestic and international travel, hotel rooms, etc., security, as well as James Jacobson's salary. Now, with this current federal case, there are 15 John Does, but the government knows that this encompasses dozens and dozens of men, that the investigation is still ongoing. And they did stress that if you or someone you know is a victim of this, to please reach out to the FBI. You can go to FBI.gov or call your local field office and let them know, because they are looking for more people who are involved. And given that that BBC documentary and the civil action lawsuit showed, over 100 male models that were abused, there's more than 15 out there. We know that, but it sounds, again, so much like Diddy stuff, like absolutely bonkers on how bad this is. Just crazy, crazy. That being said, let's get into some of the Diddy stuff, because you guys want some Diddy updates. You know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to move this out. I'm going to give you the Jamie Foxx one last, because I want to talk about a couple other things first. We have some more details on one of the 7 lawsuits that were filed yesterday. So let's talk about that one real quick. Let's talk about that one. So we heard about some details, small details. The one we got the most details on yesterday was the 13-year-old, when that one was filed. But now there's a woman who is accused of being AR'd, of course, by Diddy at a Las Vegas after party. This was in 2014 at the Planet Hollywood Hotel and Casino, not the Planet Hollywood restaurant. I don't know if the casino in Vegas has a restaurant. Probably does, but that's irrelevant. So what happens is she's at the party. Diddy directs her to the bar, and there's a couple of open bottles there. And she says, take a drink. Doesn't matter which one. Take a drink from one of the bottles. And she had 1 or 2 drinks, and she believed that it was vodka. But after about 40 minutes, she began to feel nauseated and dizzy. Actually, I think I can get you guys a picture of this. Hold on. Let me see if I can get y'all a picture real quick of Diddy at this particular event. Give me 1 second, guys. Where did my thing go? I want to see Diddy at the event. You over there. By the way, if you want to see the pictures on TikTok, you won't see them there. You have to jump over to YouTube to see them. All right, let me present this real quick. Let's show you Diddy. All right, let's see if we can get this. Bam, because there's him at the thing. Okay, so basically what happened during this was she took the drink. She began to feel nauseated and dizzy, and next thing you know, she was directed to lie down in an empty bedroom, which is very similar to the 13-year-old story. And the next morning, she doesn't remember anything. The next morning, she wakes up and she hears Combs. He's in the room. Diddy's in the room yelling at somebody over the phone. But it didn't take her long to determine that he had AR'd her. They also determined, I'm not sure how at this point, it's not been put, we don't have the details yet. I'm waiting for the suit to come out. When I do, it'll go on the page that I told you guys about at the beginning of this, but that GHB was slipped into the alcohol. In the aftermath of her assault, she alleges that she has struggled with intense emotional pain and mental health issues, feeling disgusted and deeply depressed. She has experienced a significant impact on her personal life. She struggles to maintain relationships or be in a party atmospheres due to the assault. And again, this is just one of 7 of the new lawsuits. And we're going to talk about toward the end of this, just to catch you guys up to speed on the ones that have come out, at least from Tony Busby's office, because there's a lot and it's hard to keep up to them. And so every once in a while, we'll just do like a baseline check-in so you guys know. But here's the thing. Combs representatives are saying the same copy and paste answer, right? These are clear attempts to garner publicity. They have full confidence in the facts, their legal defenses, and the integrity of the judicial process. Sean Combs has never SA'd anyone, adult, minor, man, or woman, they added. But I want to go back real quick on their statement. Most of these, especially in this last group of them, the 7 were all John Does and Jane Does. what kind of publicity are you garnering when you don't even know your name? You know? Like, that's not publicity, y'all. That's just trying to, and you had so many people come out, even not wanting money, not going after anything like that, just putting their stories out there, just saying like, hey, yeah, I experienced this with Diddy too, Anyways, it's bizarre, guys. It's so much, and every day it turns out to be a little bit more. Before we get into the Jamie Foxx thing, let's talk about this one last thing here. I'm gonna pull this up too, so you guys can see this as well. Give me 1 second. I wasn't gonna pull up the headlines, but I'm gonna show you all the headlines so you guys can look for them yourself. And look, I realize, everyone, that TMZ is on everybody's list right now. They're not happy with them for what they did with Liam Payne. I don't agree with what they did with Liam Payne either, but I'm still going to use them for the purpose of this. That's what I'm going to do. So let's share this real quick for you guys. And hold on. Technical difficulties. There we go. There we go. Let's get this up here so y'all can see it. Let's talk about the other names and when we might hear them. And this was a very interesting article. Ignore all this whatever behind it. In fact, let me do this to make it less whatever. You guys want to know who a lot of the names are that are on this, right? I do too. We all do. However, what I've said before, and I'll say it again, is that we might not know a lot of them. I'm sure we will know some. There's over 200 lawsuits that are being filed with celebs being named in these, right? But at this point, Diddy is so toxic. It's so nuclear to be associated with him that celebs are probably going to settle with these people, with these plaintiffs, whether they're guilty or not, solely for the fact that just being associated with him, there's a saying, you might beat the rat, but you won't beat the ride. And that's, I think, what you're looking at here. That basically his reputation is so tarnished, so toxic, that no one in Hollywood, no one in the music industry wants to be associated with him. And, any celebrities who have been to his party, who are, being alleged to have taken part in anything, basically they're going to pay. This is a problem that they can make disappear by throwing money at it. We will throw money. We didn't do this. We'll throw money at this, whether they did or they didn't. And we're going to sign something. You'll get paid. We don't want our name associated with Diddy, because basically it is a death sentence for any celebrity's career. And here's what I want you guys to know. And I have to explain this a few times because I know that there are some people that don't necessarily, and I mean this in the nicest way. I'm not being like condescending. I swear to God. I'm just trying to be educational here, but there's some people that don't understand the difference between a civil lawsuit and a criminal lawsuit and how you're not getting charges for this. So let me just give you a quick thing on this. What the FBI is doing, the charges that he has in federal court, what he's sitting in jail for, those are federal criminal charges. Okay. That goes to a criminal court. That's going to go through the FBI and Department of Justice. But these other lawsuits that keep coming out, those are civil lawsuits. The only thing that you have to gain from a civil lawsuit is money or information. That's it. That's it. It is incredibly rare that you have criminal action come out of a civil trial. Now, I think that this Diddy situation, all these cases, there could be a caveat to that, and I'll get to that in a second. But think O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson won his criminal. He was acquitted on his criminal, on the criminal case of things, but was sued by the estate, the estates of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, and he lost the civil suit. There was no jail time. They found him guilty for wrongful death and ordered him to pay, but he had already beaten the criminal suit. He was already acquitted. So what I'm saying here with this is that that's what these cases are. And so because of that, we aren't necessarily entitled to names. Do I think we should know names so that we can not deal with these people? We can be aware of them. Yeah, I think that we do, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get that. So if they decide to settle and sign an NDA, then that's just going to be it. We're not going to know. But that being said, this is a federal trial. The interesting thing about these cases, and I said that there was a caveat to that, is that there's like if you look at what Tony Busby has filed, what he's going to be filing, what's been settled, and the other attorneys representing other victims, you're talking about over 300 500 people that in the very near future are having suits brought against Diddy, right? That's a lot of people. Because of that, there could be people in here that the government doesn't know about yet. There could be stories or situations or evidence that the government is unaware of, and that by these people coming forward, the federal government's going to take interest in that. And if that becomes additional criminal charges, which with this situation, I think that there's a high probability of that happening. That's my personal opinion. I'm not an attorney, but that's my personal opinion. There's a high probability of that happening. Then you'll know those names, any names that are associated with it. And there are going to be people that don't heed these warnings and aren't going to pay out or don't have the money to pay out or decide that they're going to fight it anyways. And we're going to know those as well. But I think you can kind of look at the writing on the wall. You know, you can look at certain celebrities. I'm not going to name names. You guys can figure out who you want on your own with that. But there are certain celebrities that are awfully loud about keeping quiet, if that makes sense. They're awfully loud about their worry or paying people off or threatening people, you know, allegedly. And I think that's what you have to look at when it comes to this, right? But I want to make sure that we talked about that because that was, I think, a really interesting really point to be made on that. But now let's get to what you guys want to talk about, which is Jamie Foxx. And this one, guys, in my opinion, this Jamie Foxx thing was pretty mind-blowing, and I'm in the thick of it. You might disagree with me. You might think I'm hyping it, but I'll tell you, when I get to the end of this, I'm going to tell you why my mind was blown on this, okay? So Jamie Foxx is currently filming a comedy special for Netflix. And if you remember about a year ago, Jamie Foxx was in the hospital for what we were told was basically a stroke. And apparently while filming this special, Jamie Foxx made a comment about how Diddy was responsible for the stroke and his hospitalization last year. And at first people laughed about it, thinking that he was joking, but he was dead serious. And people quickly realized that he was dead serious on this. Now, Jamie Foxx and Diddy used to be friends. They used to be very good friends. And there was a business deal that went south and they had a falling out. They haven't been friends in years. And so Jamie Foxx didn't give a lot of information as to what was going on, but there's a celebrity bodyguard who you've probably heard of before. If not, you will now, named Big Homie CC. Okay. And he has corroborated this story, saying that Jamie Foxx was poisoned. Not only was Jamie Foxx poisoned by Diddy, that Jamie Foxx actually called the FBI on it. He also claims that well, we'll get into the details of it, but he also claims that he was not in the hospital for a stroke, basically. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why this is mind blowing to me. If it hasn't blown your mind already, if you haven't gotten on the same wavelength as I am, you will soon. But basically, here's what he said. He goes, well, I know he poisoned, this is what Big Homie said. Well, I know he poisoned Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx reported him to the FBI because of it. I know that's a fact. And he said that during an interview back in April of 23, talking about the undisclosed medical emergency. Because remember, his daughter came on and said that there was just a medical complication, but reassured fans he was on the road to recovery. But Big Homie said this wasn't about a medical complication. This was foul play rather than a stroke. Wasn't a stroke. Wasn't a stroke. He also says, sorry, people keep trying to pop up here. It's very annoying when I keep telling you no. I don't want to go live with you, and you keep asking me to go live. Very annoying. Anyways, he says that the real story involves Diddy's poisoning, and he even said this. He said that he too, Big Homie CC, celebrity bodyguard, he too has personal experiences, claiming that he had been poisoned by Diddy on 3 separate occasions and allegedly tested positive for cyanide on all 3 of those. He stated that those incidents led to his developing pneumonia and other health complications. He said the reason that he was targeted was because he got into altercations with Diddy's affiliates who allegedly did, quote unquote, strange things to people close to him. And he believes that's why he was targeted. But apparently poisoning isn't necessarily the only reason. Okay. Apparently there's a little bit more there too. All right. There is a music director who goes by the handle Choke No Joke. Okay. And here's what he said. He claims that the reason that Jamie Foxx was in the hospital was because Diddy's security beat him up. So not just the hospital, not just the poisoning, but also physical assault. And his exact words were this: he didn't chill, and allegedly Diddy and his security team beat Jamie's butt. Well, they didn't say butt, but keeping it safe. That's why Jamie was in the hospital. And here's why I find this interesting. And I've said this before, and I will say this again, but this is why I find this interesting. I don't, I tend to believe people who are victims till you have a reason not to believe them. Okay. These are people that aren't asking for money that we know of. These aren't people that are suing him. They're sharing their stories. They've got there's nothing for them to gain by making this up. That's my opinion on this. Okay. Jamie Foxx isn't going to gain anything by saying he was poisoned by Diddy. Big homie's not going to gain anything by doing it either. But I've talked about it before. When we talk about the threats, and we've seen in more and more of these lawsuits that come out that Diddy used his powers, allegedly, of influence to threaten to make people disappear, to threaten to ship people overseas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now we have people flat out accusing him of using cyanide, poisoning, putting people in the hospital. That's what these accusations are. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. I think Diddy's capable of a lot of things, and we have no evidence of this. There's speculation going back to Tupac, bodyguards, other people. We know he has a history of assault. We know we have a history of violence. We know that he has a history. What they took from his house, they took, the 3 defaced firearms, which again, Diddy did not have any felonies. He could go buy as many AR-15s as he wants, right? As many as he wants. He could go get them, but he had 3 that had the serial number sawed off on them or filed off on them. Why do you need that? How many people out there have disappeared that aren't well known, that we've never heard about, that are just unsolved missing persons cases? How many? And it's all speculation at this point. There could be 0. There could be 1,000. We don't know. But that's why I found this article very interesting, why my mind was blown, because this goes beyond the assault. This goes beyond the threats. This is somebody coming out saying, with nothing to gain from doing this, that Jamie Foxx was poisoned. Jamie Foxx said it too, basically. That Jamie Foxx was poisoned, that he was poisoned and tested positive for cyanide on 3 separate occasions, and now has health complications because of it. Y'all, there's a reason why Diddy needs to keep his butt in jail. There is a reason for this. He makes people disappear, and I think he could make. That's why I also think all these people are coming forward as John and Jane Does, because he still can run things from where he is. Like, I'm not trying to be like he's John Gotti or whatever, but he's kind of like John Gotti. He's kind of like this, like a real head of a family mobster, gangster kind of guy who is running these illegal activities, making people disappear, running illicit substances, running trafficking, human trafficking, and getting away with it. And if you let this man out, even on home arrest, it would be detrimental to these people. And when I don't think it can get any worse, something like this comes out. I don't even know what's going to happen next week when we get the next batch, assuming we have to wait that long. We might get more this week. But next week when we get another batch of lawsuits, which of course I'll be updating you guys on that as well. So again, always, I know we're pandering for followers, but please hit the follow button. But it's just it's nuts, guys. Absolutely nuts. But let's do this real quick, because I think that you guys could use a baseline, right? We always can use a baseline. We could always use kind of a check-in on this kind of stuff. So let's talk about the cases that we have so far. I'm going to give y'all real brief synopsises on the cases so far that are out there. And these are going to be just the ones filed by Tony Busby, because I saw this article. I was like, okay, this is an easy thing to give you guys. And without getting into the rest of them, which we can do later. But let's talk about what he's out there with quick little blurbs on each of them. So these next few, how many of this am I doing right here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. These were all the ones that were filed on October 14th. All right. So on October, again, real quick, just to catch you guys up to speed for those of y'all who aren't aware or need just a real quick refresh where we're at, because there's a lot of people who are new to the Diddy case. So back on October 4th, I'm just going to read these guys. Back on October 14th, an unnamed woman alleged Diddy invited her and her friend to a hotel room where he threatened to have them both unalived. Sorry, I know we hate the word unalive. Social media, what can we do? Have them both unalive before making them drink and do substances. He fondled, molested, and ultimately AR'd them, or her, in 2004. She was a 19-year-old student in Brooklyn at the time and had been invited to a party of Diddy's near her campus. That was the first one. The next one was a Georgia man working for a management company in New York alleged that he was given a spiked drink at a party hosted by Diddy in 21 that left him paralyzed and feeling like he was trapped in his own body before at least 3 men, including Sean Combs, SA'd him. An unnamed woman said Combs asked to speak with her privately at a Biggie Smalls promotional party in 95 before allegedly slamming her head into a wall and R-ing her, saying that you better not tell anyone about this or you will disappear before leaving. Then a New Jersey man claimed in a separate complaint he was working security at a white party in 06, and he was given 2 alcoholic drinks by Diddy himself. He believes that they were spiked with ecstasy and other substances before he was allegedly forcibly pushed into an open van and essayed by Combs specifically. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you read the full text of that, that one is graphic. Like, talks about stuff dripping out of him, like that graphic. Then on the still on October 14th, an unnamed North Carolina man alleged that he was 16 years old, so child at the time, and tried to break into the music industry when he was fondled by Combs at one of the rapper's white parties in the Hamptons. This was in 98. An incident that his lawsuit says continues to humiliate and cause shame. Still on the 14th, y'all, an Ohio man worked in fashion at the time of Combs' Sean John clothing line. He alleges that he was worked as, I know this when he worked as an Echo for the clothing brand Echo. Alleges that he was in a stockroom at the Macy's flagship store in Manhattan at Herald Square, and this was back in 08, when Diddy and 2 large bodyguards approached him, hit him in the base of the neck, possibly with a pistol, and allegedly forced him to perform on him while he was on his knees. There, that gives you the idea. While making threats like "I'll unalive you." The complaint, which also names Macy's as a defendant, alleges the department store ignored his attempt to report the assault and had him fired from his job to protect its relationship with Combs and the Sean John line. Macy's never responded with any comment on that. Now moving to October 20th, this last batch, a New York man who worked in security in the music industry in 05 when he was 21 years old, sued Diddy in New York Superior Court, so not federal court, but Superior Court, and claimed he was pressured into consuming a drink laced with substances at a party before Combs started to SA him. That stopped when the plaintiff's wife walked into the room and intervened. On October 20th, a California man sued in New York, claiming Diddy exposed himself to him and groped him while at a launch party for Ciroc Vodka, the launch party for which Diddy owned in 2022, before an unnamed professional athlete intervened and ended the assault. Still on October 20th, an unnamed man claimed in a New York Superior Court complaint that he was SA'd by Diddy when he was an aspiring 17-year-old musician in 22 and attended a party after being promised he could meet Diddy and connect with influential industry leaders. Then an Arizona woman alleged in New York court that she was R'd by Diddy at one of his infamous Las Vegas parties over Memorial Day weekend in 14, repeating others' claims that she was served alcoholic drinks laced with substances that left her slowly losing control of her motor functions. Then an unnamed personal trainer who lives in California, claimed in a New York lawsuit that he was told Combs was impressed with his training regimen and wanted to feature him in a video before he attended a party hosted by Diddy, when he was then allegedly served a spiked drink before he was forced into acts with both men and women, including an unnamed celebrity. Then an unnamed North Carolina musician said in a complaint that she was at a party hosted by Combs that was attended by various TV and music celebrities and included the widespread use of substances. This was in 22. And she was served a spiked drink. That's his MO, guys. It's all his drink. Never. Let me tell you what. Anything in the world is safer than a drink from Diddy. I'm just telling you all that. Served a spiked drink and was R'd by Diddy while she was trapped inside her body, quote unquote, trapped inside her body, not participating, but not able to resist. Then finally, there was an unnamed Alabama woman who claimed in a suit filed in New York that she was 13 years old in 2020 when she was invited to a VMA Awards after party by an associate of Combs. It was Combs' limo driver, where she was allegedly served a spiked drink and repeatedly raped by Diddy and another male celebrity, while a female celebrity, neither of whom have been named at this point, watched until she was able to escape. Now, that's where we're at. That's you being caught up on just the ones filed by Tony Busby. There are other attorneys that have filed some as well. And again, I did put all of this on my web, all the ones I've been able to pull the documents for on my website. And frankly, if you come across one that I don't have there, especially any of these newer ones, please email them to me because I've been struggling to try to locate them. But that being said, it's a lot, y'all. It is insane amount of statements. So many of them have the same MO. It's just, it's a lot. It is a lot to handle. And again, more is coming out every single day. Every single day. One thing I do want to talk about real quick too is the royal family. I didn't have this on my list, but somebody made a comment on YouTube, not talking about the royal family, but I want to talk about this because this has been a topic of discussion for a lot of people. What about the royal family? Because apparently Diddy was obsessed with the royal family, like absolutely obsessed. Basically, he invited them, specifically Prince Harry and Prince William, to at least 10 parties, all of which they declined. They never showed up to one. They never had anything to do with him. And we can talk about why in a second. But they only met. Diddy finally got to meet him one time. There's a photo, and I did this on the video I posted on Insta, Facebook, and TikTok. There's a photo with William and Harry back in 2007. Sorry, guys. Back in 2007, where they were doing a charity concert basically 10 years after their mother, Princess Diana's death. And it was a 6-hour charity concert. And they posed with photos, got to meet him, etc. Right. That was it. But he was apparently so obsessed that he had framed pictures of the princes in his New York apartment. Like obsessed with them. Apparently, according to somebody who worked for Diddy, Diddy thought himself as a king and wanted princes in his entourage. But let's be real. If you had Prince Harry, especially in their younger days, Prince Harry and Prince William in your entourage, I mean, that's pretty damn good for him. That's going to get a lot of people. That gives him a whole different level of notoriety. But let's just, somebody says it's called a shrine. Yeah, he had a shrine to them. But basically, the royal family does, anybody who tries to get close to the royal families, they have a vetting process. You're not going to just get close to the royal families. And you can bet your butt that Queen Elizabeth would have shut that down real quick, whether they wanted to or not. So they never attended. But I'm sure he would have liked to have had the future king of England at his parties. But they never attended. There's a lot of rumors out there that maybe, the William attended or Harry attended. They're just not true. They're just absolutely not true. But I find that part very interesting. He had this just, I mean, it's very, like, I'm not diagnosing him, but it's very narcissistic in behavior. This very grandiose, like, larger than life persona, which, I mean, I guess to a degree he was, I'm guessing to a degree he was, but the royal family is not without their own scandals. I don't know if he ever invited maybe it's a bad joke, but invited Prince Andrew to any of these, but maybe that's a bad joke, but they never went. That's the point. Guys, there's a lot every single day. Every night before I go to bed, I Google the latest Diddy stories, and I do the same thing when I get up in the morning. And there's always something new. I do it several times a day too, and it's just always something new. And now we have the Abercrombie one to go off of. Guys, it's a lot. I think that the FBI and the DOJ are really just on a crackdown of this type of behavior. I think because they got this guy. There's just a lot that they're going after right now. This seems to be their focus. What somebody says, I can't take credit for this, that the FBI is in their FAAFO era right now. And they aren't playing. They're doing these investigations, are following through. And bear in mind that if the FBI arrests you, people also ask, I've seen this question a lot too. I'll answer this too. Why, from the time that they learn about this, is it taking so long for the arrest? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the FBI wants a solid open and shut case is what they want. They want something that's so airtight that you're not going to beat it. And that type of an investigation takes a long time to conduct and conclude and write a report. Plus, government doesn't move quick. So taking a year to do these and to make these finally come through to arrests and whatnot, that takes time to do. So it can't be immediate, because if you immediately arrest somebody, you don't have your ducks in a row, people can hide evidence, they can, et cetera. oftentimes these people don't know they're being investigated until things like the raids happen on your house. By then they have already a lot of their information, but they don't want to give you a chance to dispose of any evidence. So it's a lot, guys. It's a lot, guys. I do real quick say I have a start thing on here real quick. I'm going to put it out there. First of all, I appreciate the super chat. Let me give you thank you for that. The part of Jeffrey Epstein's network, LX brand. It might be. I haven't gotten that far down the rabbit hole. I've seen other people say that. I'm not sure if it is or it isn't, but I mean, let's be real. They're all written in the same font, right? At this point in time. So it's a lot, guys. Anyways, there is more to come on this. There's a lot more to come on this, on all of these. And we're going to make sure to update you. So, you know, again, if you're new here, whether it's Facebook, Insta, TikTok, YouTube, which is where we're streaming on all those platforms right now, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It does me a solid. It doesn't cost you guys anything to do it. And it's massively appreciated. But I mean, that's what I got for today, guys. You know, I really appreciate y'all tuning in, and we will be back tomorrow with some updates. Bye, everyone.